Today we have to speak about Chapter 1, Understanding Commercial Law. How can we understand commercial law, which is business law? How we can think about it? How can we plan for the next 15 weeks? We have to understand the basic means of commercial law. How was it made? When was it made? Because to understand commercial law, we have to go back a long time ago, medieval time. As you can see here, at medieval time, which عصور الوسطى, medieval time, at that time in Europe, we have witnessed a collection of individuals, traders, merchants, who have their own life. They used to function, to work, they have their own activities in the market, and those people have their own customs, usage, traditions, norms. Like this society here, imagine yourself in this society, in this class, sitting down, have your own way, have your own policy. You have this class which can be different from other classes. In this class here, we can understand what we would like to do. We can plan, we can take steps. The same way at medieval time, we had at that time, we have a state law, which is public. Public law was made by the state, which was called here civil law. Civil law existed long time ago. When we speak about civil law, we speak about the state. And the state existed thousands of years ago. And there was some rules, policies, systems to organize the life of the people in a society. At that time, as you can see, there was something called civil law. And civil law was applicable to all people in a society. For me, for you, for others. It's a general. We can apply civil law if we have conflict. If two people have conflict, applying civil law. If two merchants had conflict, they used to apply civil law. And civil law was organizing everything in our society at medieval time. And this civil law was made by the state, not by individuals. Until medieval time, at that time, you can see that we had, and especially in Europe, so we have some developments in which people living at the same society, merchants, traders, تجار, they used to think that why should we use civil law? Why do we have to use civil law? Why can't we use our own law? As we're going to see later on, there was a need to change, to have something specific for this society. As you can see here, look back again, 400, 500 years ago. This is the beginning of commercial law. We have, if you look in different legal systems in many places, in many countries, you find commercial law existed long time ago, but existed within the content of civil law, داخل القانون المدني. But at this time, merchants, they had their own rules. They used to think, to act, and to practice their own common usage, customs, culture. And they used to think that even if it was civil law made by the state, but civil law was not responsive, was not good enough, was not effective. If you look at these elements here, there was a need. At that time, this need was for effective, quick, comprehensible, acceptable system and specialized courts. Why was that? What do you think? Why we could not, as merchants at that time, Why couldn't we use civil law? Why merchants used to think about having a new system for their own?
Because I think merchandise at that time was pretty much active.
Okay.
Because civil law it's from thousands of years, and the law merchant it's improving and it's growing of demands of commerce.
Fine. If you look back at the same situation, same time, that civil law was fine, was okay. We could use civil law, and it was applicable to all people in the same society. But there was a group of people who were the merchants, and those merchants, they have their own way of life. It's not the same like others. Those merchants, those traders, they developed a way of life which has special needs, special features. Like, they were thinking that civil law was fine, was okay, but was not good enough, was not effective. We need something fast, something quick to respond, because business activities are so quick. How many times do we make transactions per day? How many transactions we make as civilians? We do. I can buy, I can sell, I can rent things, but not often, like once a day, once a month. But if you look at business transactions in business, we find hundreds, sometimes even thousands of transactions are made at one store. So we need to have a quick and effective mechanism to respond to the needs. If we have a conflict, what can we do? In this case, if we go back to the civil law, it was fine, but civil law and civil courts, public court here, would delay. They could delay the whole process, and it could take a long time to be able to have a solution. So if you have conflict between two traders, if you have a conflict over one business activity, this conflict would take a few months. It takes a few years. Look here what we have in this country and other countries. One case, one lawsuit, دعوة قضائية, can take a few years to be resolved, to have a solution. But this system, any problem, we can solve it in a few days' time, a few weeks' time. So as you can see here, it's a special system here, which was called the law merchant. Law merchant. هو قانون تاجر. Someone will ask me now, why should we study something we had many, many years ago? Do we have any benefit out of this? What do you think? Any benefit we have out of this system, we can apply it today in our life or not?
Because normally the modern schools of merchants are actually taken from the old ones.
Yeah, we have something to learn from the past. We have many things to learn from the past. We have to look at the customs and the traditions and culture which were the basis for law merchant. Today we use the same thing. Today we have a commercial law, and this commercial law we have today is based on the needs of the merchants, the custom, the traditions, the rules. We can make our law. We can make it, we can change it, we can obliterate it, cancel it. Here, today we can learn lots of things, as we're going to see later on, that there's something called arbitration, tahkim, in which we have a mediation between two parties, two sides. If you have a conflict between you and she, A and B, between two parties, we have a conflict. How can we solve it? Usually we have to go to the court. And this court would take time. But nowadays in our life we can see that there is a new system which is called arbitration, mediation, conflict resolution. And in this system here, we have somebody, one person, and more than one person. I can be an arbitrator, or you can be an arbitrator, an accountant, a lawyer, engineer, anyone can be an arbitrator. Someone would look at both sides, what you have and what she has. What do you have? What kind of evidence do you have? What does she have? Then I would look at both sides, and I can decide as an arbitrator. I'm not a judge. I can be an arbitrator. Hakam. I can take a decision, and my decision will be the final decision. Unless my decision was tainted by a fraud. في غش. Otherwise, my decision is final for you, for both sides. Now, how can I decide? How can I look at this case? I would use the same mechanism as it was used long time ago by merchants at medieval time. So today we have learned a lesson from the past. What we have learned today, something which we had a long time ago. We still use the same principles, which are the common usage and the customs, which are the basis. Today, let's say that we would like to make a new law for this class. A new law, whether we call it education law, commercial law, then how can we make it? I would look at you, and you, and you. I would look at what you need. How do you think? How can we function? How can we practice our life in a good way, in a peaceful way? Then I would collect all your customs and traditions, combine them together, and take the best out of that, and this would be our law, isn't it? It's not difficult to make it. So if we have made, as you could see now, a law, which was called law merchant, we could establish something called merchant courts. If we have a system, how can we apply it? How can we apply the law? How can we enforce it? We, as individuals in a society, we have to apply the law. We have to abide. You know what abide is? Abide by the law, يلتزم. We have to enforce the law by ourselves. We have to accept it, and we have to take it into consideration. Then we as individuals or as traders in the community, then we have to do this job. We have to take the action. Our actions, our activities have to be consistent with the legal system. See, if we have a conflict here or dispute, then we have to go to the court. They call that we have merchant courts at the same time, a medieval time. And to make it easy for merchants, those courts were established in the city center, in the market, not far away. You don't have to walk a long distance. As a merchant, you work at the same place, in the market. You have your business. In this case, if you would like to solve any conflict between you and someone else, then you can go for the court. And this court is accessible easily. It's in a nearby, in a few minutes walking at the same place, because we don't want to waste time. We want to save time, and we want to save money. See, as you can see here, those courts were built in many places, the market, the center of the city, in the main streets. And the same courts were administered by judge, and those judges were merchants. So there was no need to appoint somebody who was not a merchant. So within the same society, you have lawmakers, decision makers, and you have judge. So we have judiciary system, and you have legal system. We have both judiciary and the legal system. So within this way of law and courts and abiding by the law, we find that the state was standing, looking, watching. The state had its own civil law, which is public. I mean, it's not public in a sense we have inside the country, public or private. It's public in a sense it was made by the state, made by state, not by individuals, not by merchants. You understand what I'm saying? Are you following me? Sure. Good. So this law, merchant, was applicable and everyone was listening and it was fine. At the same time, the state was not interfering. The state did not interfere, did not say no. I would leave you. Do whatever you would like to do. It's your life, your business, your activities. Take your chance, think, make business, make money, make a profit, and then we in the state, as a government, we're going to be watching you. We will watch you. If you make mistakes, we can interfere, but otherwise, the state was standing, having its own business, and not interfering. Why? Because of two main reasons. Here, as you can see here, states or local authorities seldom interference, seldom, rare, نادر ما تتدخل الدولة, was not interfering in this way of life or this way of system, was keeping it to the merchants. Because number one, trade, business will flourish. Having izdihar, you have more prosperity, more life, more money, more profit made by merchant. And if you do here money, and economic situation will be much better than the state can take its own part. The state would increase tax. So we have kind of a mutual benefit for the state and benefit for the merchant society. Both sides would have their own benefit. So this is why the state was leaving merchants to do this kind of business. Fine up to now? Okay. Any question? Okay. We'll have to go back a little bit for the same point to explain in more details why we have moved one step ahead, why we have taken one step ahead by leaving civil law, despite the fact we knew that civil law was good, was okay, was fine, and we could use it. And then we moved from this step to law merchant. Why was that? Why did we have to move? Why did we have to shift from civil to merchant law? Anyone?
Because the merchant law is more specific about the commerce rules and the commerce activities, and civil it's a general rules.
Anyone else? I just want to listen to you. What do you think?
Same reason you just have mentioned, because merchandise and commerce flourish and they need more modified rules to control their activities and transactions.
Okay. Look at the needs. The need for quick and effective justice. Again, we just repeat the same point, but we explain it in a different way, in more details. There was a need for quick, effective justice. This reason is applicable today. Today, we have how many divisions, how many branches of law we have. Commercial law is a specific law for a specific society, for merchants, for business activities. So this based on a need for those people, for that community. This need is quick, effective justice. How can we achieve justice? We can achieve it by civil law. We can achieve it by commercial law. But the mechanism, it's not the same. The policy, it's not the same. The methods we use, it's not the same. We have speed in commercial law. In law merchant, we use the speed and the trust. Speed and trust. How often we use them? Often we use them, yes. In all cases, we have to use the speed. We have to be quick. A new system of law has to be responsive to the needs of those merchants. Look here, the customs and the practices among the traders. We collected all customs and practices and rules among the traders, collect them, combine them, take the best, and then make the law. Now, this would save us time, would save us money. Yeah, solve disputes rapidly, in a quick way. I don't have to wait 2 years or 5 years. Because if I take my case to the court, at the civil court, which was made by the state, it takes a long time. Then we have to wait. And my case might not be successful. This would delay my business. I would have to invest, I would have to pay lots of money as fees. But in this case here, we have least cost by most efficient means. Least cost. We save money and we save time and we achieve efficiency. What's efficiency? Efficiency.
I think that it's the ability to do the right things or the things right.
Simply, less costs and less time.
Same?
Simply, less costs and less time.
Yes, okay. So we can invest in the business, we can achieve a prosperity, we can make more money, we can save time, we can save money. If we look back at the public courts here, public courts, if we take the case to look at the lawsuit, the dispute, the conflict to the public court, it takes long time, it would delay their business. And that meant losing money. The same equation, the same meaning. Public courts takes time, delay business, takes more money. In a quick way here, if we would like to summarize the whole point and the features of law merchants in 3 points. Number 1, 2, 3. These points, as you can see them, law merchant based on the following. Look at that. Anyone can read? Number 1.
Quick and
Effective.
justice.
That's simple. What we need always to achieve in our life is justice. As law is based on justice, equity, and fairness. Justice, equity, fairness. How can we achieve justice? There are many ways. If justice was to be delayed, then we're not achieving real justice. Justice has to be instantly applied to people. I have to pay, you're right, and you have to pay what you have to. Like here, a quick, effective justice is achieved by applying law merchant. Because we can solve cases in a short time, then we can achieve justice. Because many schools are saying that justice is achievable. Yes, it is. But justice have to be achieved on time. On time. If you have a right and you would like to achieve something, then you have to achieve it on the time you are planning to achieve it. If there was a delay, sometimes you would lose. If there was a delay on achieving your own right, then this delay will mean that you haven't got your full justice. Number 2 is informal procedures. When we apply law merchant, we don't have formal, it's informal, unofficial procedures. In a public court, everything is official, formal. difficulties, complications, long time. I'm not going to go into details, but you're going to see later on, you will see there is a big difference between public and private, and civil and commercial law. Civil law, we have many complications, many difficulties. How can we prove the case? What kind of evidence do we need? When can we submit the evidence? Is it written or is it oral? How many witnesses? Many complications. But when it comes to law merchant, it's easy. It's informal. We can choose the law. We can choose the type of evidence. We can choose the mechanism. How can we proceed? When can we proceed? So it's simple and it's informal. Proceedings, إجراءات, informal, unofficial. Number 3, that's what we would like to achieve is fair price, good commerce, and equity. Fair price. If we do the steps we have been talking about, all the steps we have mentioned, then at the end of the day we can achieve fair price. Everything will be available for all people in the society. We can achieve good commerce, no complexity, no difficulties. Everything is smooth and easy and peaceful, and we can achieve equity. Equity. So everybody is equal in this society. Okay, within this system, there was a way to choose a judge. How can we choose somebody out of you to be a judge? Is it easy? Is it a difficult job? And why? Because we have to apply the law. We have to enforce it. But who can enforce it? We have to have judiciary system, a professional judiciary. نظام قضائي. First step was to choose judge. If we would like to choose a judge today out of you, somebody out of you, how can we? What kind of criteria do we have? What elements, what conditions should we have in a judge?
We can choose it according to commercial background and practical knowledge.
And
education.
anyone else? Anyone in the back there? Anyone here? If we would like to choose a judge, just leave the slide. Look at me. Think for a minute. How can we use it? How can we do it? How can we choose a judge? Go on.
Well, first of all, you have to look for some kind of characters and criteria in this person to be a fair judge. Some traits must be around this guy you want him to be a judge. To be a judge, it means you have to be. You have to have a fair perspective about things.
Good. Let's go look number 1, for example, here. We have to have commercial background. Commercial. Someone has some commercial background. You have knowledge, education, skills. You understand what's commerce, what's business. You know the difference between them. You know how to act in the market. Someone has a practical knowledge, not only theoretical, not studying, but at least you have to know how to practice, what to do. If 2 people come to me as a judge, what can I do with them? How can I make a decision? How can I listen to them? All these are practical steps, are necessary. How can I make a decision? If you study a piece of law like this, you cannot practice easily. A lawyer has to practice 2 years after finishing bachelor degree. After studying 4 years, a lawyer has to practice 2 years at the court with the assistance, with the help of a lawyer. And then after that, after 6 years, you need to go to court independently, alone. You have to stand on your feet. It's not easy. It takes time to be able to understand everything. To be a judge, it would take a long time. You have to understand practically what decision, how, what kind of mechanisms we need to adopt, the procedures, really important. Number 3, reputation. It is important. Sum'a. Someone has a good name. Someone was not convicted. Someone is with a clean record. Someone has not been accused of any crime. Someone has a reputation within the society that people respect him or respect her. Someone is acceptable to the people. Someone we can trust. These are features have to be in the judge. And number 4, can you read it? Any one of you. Expertise in merchant trade. Because we are talking about specific. We have been speaking about specific judge. In Palestine, for example, here, we do not have commercial courts. We have civil and criminal. Judge can be specialized in civil. By this time, at that situation, he or she would look at both cases, civil and commercial. We do not have a specialized system. Unfortunately, there is no specialized system. We do not have both. We have only civil courts, in which the civil judge would look at both cases, civil and commercial, at the same time. If we have a specialized system, then the judge would be specialized in this subject. Like you have in medicine, we have many types of medical doctors, engineers, the same, teachers. The same thing, we have lawyers, specialized companies in compensation, in bankruptcy, in criminal, in civil, specialized courts, specialized judge, and the whole system can be specialized. Now, that man or that lady as a judge would have some experience in this subject, commercial. At the end of the day, with the time, with many years, at medieval time, we found that a professional judiciary was established. Professional judiciary was established, which has taken a long time to build. Professional in which day after day, many judges taking decisions, build their decisions on customs and traditions. Then professional judiciary was made. Again, the same question I'm going to ask again here. What's the benefit? What kind of benefit can we get out of this today? If you look back at 500 or 400 years ago, medieval time, what benefit we can have today? Anyone? Today, how can we appoint judge? Who appoint them today? Nowadays. Who appoints judge nowadays? State, wallah. Isn't it the state? It is the state. It's the Minister of Justice. Isn't it? The Minister of Justice. We have a judiciary system. But in the past, as I said here, we have law merchant. Those judges used to be appointed by the same society, not by the state, by the same society. We can elect, we can select somebody with the same features we had to be a judge. But today we can have the benefit out of this system in which we have arbitration, mediation. I don't know if you can, or if you have any idea about arbitration or not, but this is a subject we have to study at the end of this semester. Arbitration, tahkim. We have mediation between parties. If we have Haneen, I'tidal, both Haneen and I'tidal, they have a conflict. This is a commercial conflict, and they can come to me as an arbitrator. I can mediate. I can look at what she has and evidence and what she has, and I will evaluate the whole situation, and I can decide. I was not appointed by the state. I'm individual, independent, arbitrator. I have my own office. I can have a license, and this license, shahada, license can be issued by the Minister of Justice. By the Minister of Justice. I can use my own way based on justice, fairness, and equity to decide in this case. So my decision can be taken in a few days' time, in a few weeks' time. It doesn't take a long time. It does not take a long time. But if you go to court, it takes a long time. Now, how can you choose somebody to be an arbitrator? الحكم. How can we choose that person? How can we? The same criteria here. In the past used to be a choice of judge. At medieval time, law merchant. Today, we use the same way, the same conditions in arbitration. And this, anyway, this chapter or this point, we will speak about it in details later on. Fine? You get the point? Easy? What do you think? No? Go on, if you have any question, you can ask me. No? I don't think it's difficult, isn't it? It's not for some students. But for other students, it's kind of different somehow. It's going to be difficult. I think because you have some new words, legal words, you have to understand it. If you have any difficulty with any word, anytime you can stop me and ask, what does it mean, this word? How can I translate it? Is that okay? This slide, we have to look at the concept. The concept of law merchant. The same subject, we're still focusing on the same point. What's the concept? The concept. There is nothing new here. Nothing new. What I have been mentioning for the past 40 minutes is the same thing. The concept behind, the idea. Why do we have law merchant? Why? Come on, wake up. Don't be afraid from the camera. Anyone else? Anyone? No? What's the idea? What's the concept behind law merchant? Why was it introduced? Why was it made at the first place? Why merchants had their own law and they did not use civil law? Same question I did answer.
Because the merchant needs speed in their transaction and their conflict, because the business environment needs speed and trust in their...
Good. Simple answer. Fine. We can see here, in addition to what I have mentioned, in addition to that, look at this point here, because law merchant is based on lists, procedural formality. It's informal, unofficial, in which everything can be oral. You can stand on behalf of the judge. You can speak your mind. You can bring the evidence. Nothing has to be written down. Everything is simple. No procedures like in the court. Simple, easy way. But this does not mean that we don't have to write sometimes. In some cases, in some situations, we do have to write some papers. Like for example here, I found something long time ago called written obligatory. It's a piece of paper, written obligatory, a piece of paper, and that piece of paper looks like a bond. What bond? Sanad or check. In that, you can write the amount of money in debt. مبلغ الدين كم? The amount of money in debt. Was it $2,000? $5,000? That has to be written down between the two parties. Despite the fact that the whole system is informal, less. But we do have, in some cases, sometimes we do have some written papers. Like this one, written obligatory. Yes. Yeah. Why is that? Because we don't have to write the date. We have to write the date.
Documentation has to be done.
Documentation in some cases, and this document, this written obligatory, can be approved. It can be freely transferred. We can transfer. If I have a written obligatory in my name, I can sell it. I can transfer it to someone else. It's money. It's a proof. It's equal to a check or to a bond. I can take it from somebody, from Hanin, and I can pass it to I'tidal. From one to the second to the third, and this is a proof of the money. And it can be easily transferred between people. This is number one. So number one is the concept based on less procedural formality. Number two is there is something called party autonomy. Autonomy. What's autonomy? سلطة ذاتية. سلطة ذاتية. Party autonomy, it means that parties to the conflict, A and B, two conflicted parties, two disputed parties, طرفين متنازعين, they have autonomy. They have the freedom. Like I said at the beginning, Hanin and I'tidal. They have the freedom to take the case to the court or not. It's up to them. They can decide. You are the parties, two A and B parties. You can take the case to the court or not. No one can force you. It's your decision. Number two, the evidence. What kind of evidence you would like to submit and she would like to submit? Would you like to submit a written evidence or the oral evidence? Would you like to bring a proof that you have kept for many weeks or something in you? I mean, the type of evidence, it's up to you. How can you convince the judge? How can you take your case to the best point in which you can achieve justice? The evidence, it's your evidence. In civil law, it's not the same, by the way. Civil law, it's complex. Many steps can be taken sometimes to be able to achieve justice. In civil law, you have to abide by specific system. You cannot say no. You cannot say, I would like to choose my own evidence. No. You have to look. What kind of procedures do you have? You have some information you have to follow. Some procedures, you have to follow them. You cannot have your own way. But in commercial life, you have more space, freedom. You can choose the evidence in which you can prove your case. Fine? Number three here, which law we can apply? Parties can choose the law. That's not easy. Like in civil law, in public courts, state law, we cannot choose. It's not our choice. It's kept to the state. I have a conflict with you. We can go to the court and the judge can decide exactly what to do because he is a specialist. He can use his own way because he can apply justice. But when it comes to law merchant, you can choose the law you would like to apply. We mean by law here the customs and the traditions. العادات والتقاليد نفس. Customs and traditions. Like, for example, if we have two merchants, one of them is living in Gaza City and the second one is living in Khan Yunis. Two. One in Gaza City and the second one in Khan Yunis. And they have a conflict. Two merchants. And you know that in this place here, we have customs and traditions can be different from the other place. Then you can choose, you can sit down, you can see what you need to do. Everything is acceptable here based on consensus, ijma', based on both parties accepting one arbitrator, one judge. One judge. Fine. Move on. Next slide. Okay, up to now? Are you sure? Okay, well, I will believe you. We're going to take like a few minutes after we finish here, and it will not be recorded, don't worry. We look at the evolution of the law merchant. Evolution, development. What do you think? The law merchant existed for a long time, for a short time? Law merchant existed for a long time, or was existed for a short time? A long time. As I said, it was based on customs and traditions. With the time, as a cosmopolitan and international, and it was used in cities in different places in Europe, it was declined, going down, the law merchant, towards the end of medieval time. After 200 years, more or less, this law merchant was declining. Why? Why was it declining?
Because of that changing environment, the changing customs and traditions, etc.
Yes. And look at these points here. Number one, anyone can read it. Anyone? Why law merchant was declining at the end of medieval time? Can you read it? Go on.
Due to the adoption of national commercial law.
Okay. Due to the adoption of national commercial law. So we have moved from this year, number one, civil law. Number two, law merchant. Number three, national commercial law. National commercial law. The adoption by the state, adopting a new system which was called national commercial law. Why this system was taking? Because the state was looking at the people, society, the merchants, in which we found that customs were increasing here, increasing modifications of local customs to protect the interests of local merchants. In many places in the same country, in the same city, merchants were taking their activities, modifying. Customs cannot stand for a long time. Today in our society, we have some traditions, but those traditions can be changed with the time. After 50 years, after 10 years, we can change these customs and those traditions, the norms. The same thing happened with merchant society at medieval time, in which they were changing customs, modifications, amend time after time, year after year. The same customs were changed completely. And we find lots of customs and traditions in which that were affecting the state in a negative way, in which we had witnessed chaos, not chaoses, fawda, chaos, and which the state was feeling it would lose control. How would it feel if the state losing control of this society? Then you can have many conflicts, and then the state would lose power, would lose its status. Then this is why the state came on, interfered, and said, well, okay, the only way is to come back to the state law. And the state established national commercial law. So the result was, can you read it for me?
Loss of autonomy of merchant
tribunals
to state courts.
Yeah. Even the judicial system, court system, was transferred from the merchant to the state. So we're coming back to the same point as it was in the past. as it was in the past, going back from law merchant to state, to the public court. Why? Because the state was feeling at a point, we cannot leave it to you as merchants. We have to take steps, we have to take procedures to protect the society and to protect the state and to achieve justice and to achieve the interests of both sides, the state and the society. Then the state came on and took many steps to achieve real justice. And what happened after that? There was a system, there was a way of codifying here. As you can see, codification and nationalization of the law merchant. All what happened in a practical way, the state did not delete, did not obliterate, did not cancel the law merchant. We did not come to the law merchant and say, well, okay, we don't need it completely. No. We kept it. We have collected, the state collected all the customs and the traditions, collect them and look at these customs and the traditions, what do we need and what we should not use. Take the best and leave the worst. And the state, practically, realistically, the state modified, then nationalized, على مستوى الوطن, nationalized and codified, written down, make the law in writing, make the law in writing. So it can be like this in a book, in a leaflet. It can be handed out to the people. You can look at it, you can see, you can read that law. There is one point you have to take into consideration, that the state, when the state took this step, it did not neglect law merchants at all. When the state codified, كتبت يعني قننت, when the state codified the law, which is national commercial law, the state did not neglect the practices. So the point I was focusing from the beginning on the custom, the traditions, the practices of merchants. The state did not neglect. The state took these practices and customs and had them in the same content of national commercial law. Even here, there were some institutions continued to function, and even some here state judges were appointed for the same criteria, the same conditions, the same way it was in the past. Reputation, practice, knowledge, the same conditions were used again to appoint judge. Do you get the point here? Simply so we can say that
the law of the merchant was simply codified. National codes built on.
So national codes, the whole law, were built on two things. National codes, commercial law, was based on two main things. Number one is principles laid down by the trade commercial here, by trade commercial practices. The whole new system which was made by the state later on was based on the old system, not neglecting, not cancelling what we had in the past. We use the past for today. And in the future, people would look at what we have today. Then we can build on, not to start from zero. No, we can build on. And number two here, the embodied law merchant. So, I mean, the rules of the new law, the content of the new law, embodied, included law merchant. So, law merchant was not cancelled or obliterated. It was used again, but in a nice way. Law merchant was used by the state, but in a nice and simple way to have the benefit for the merchant and for the state. An example on this, as you could see, that development under commercial law. Today, for example, look, in the UK and in the USA, what they have, how can they decide? And even in Palestine, in Egypt, in many other countries, we still use the same way. Today, if we would like to have a new law, a new business law or commercial law, I can look at you as merchants. What customs do you have? I'm not going to take everything. We can take the best of those customs, the best of the best. We can modify them. We can collect, modify, and use them in a nice way to help both sides and to help this community to work in a good way. And this is really what is happening nowadays, for example, in English courts in the UK. English courts apply customs. How? With two conditions. English courts apply customs, apply merchant custom if, number one and number two here, really important. How can I, as a judge, apply commercial customs? Today in the state, we have a law which is called commercial law. If I have two disputed parties, A and B, come to me, I will apply commercial law. I will apply commercial law, but if both of you come to me and say, we would like to apply our customs, would I accept this or not? What do you think? If two people come to me, two disputed people come to me from the merchant society, and they said that we have our customs and traditions, and we would like to apply them in your court, can I accept or not? Yeah? In English courts, yeah. Yes. Why not? Why not? Because we would like to achieve justice at the end of the day. I would see if these customs and traditions were consistent, متناغمة with the law, it's fine. Why not? It's okay, I can accept it. And number two, if you can prove that these are customs are practiced in the market, if you can prove to me that those customs are available in the market and you could use them in the market, then I can use these customs and I can make my decision based on law and based on your customs as well. Fine? This is in the UK. In the USA, okay, go on, ask me if you have any question. In the USA, what they have, these customs and traditions were included in here. In the USA, law merchant prevailed in where? General principles and doctrine of commercial jurisprudence. علم القانون, jurisprudence. So in the law itself, they included the customs and the traditions. So there is no need to repeat them again in the court. So there is a way we can take them into consideration. There is a way in which in the United States these customs and traditions of merchants can be applicable because they are part of the legal system. They have been adopted they become part of the content of the commercial jurisprudence. Okay. Well, we have 2 slides left here. Can we complete them? Yes. Well, next time I'm going to repeat what we have briefly in a few minutes' time. I know it's a long time, it's a long lecture, but well, we have to finish. I mean, this slide, it's not new. I did explain it just a few minutes ago, I'm just going to repeat it again quickly in 2 minutes time. International commercial law and arbitration. I spoke about arbitration. And I said that today we can use the same way we had long time ago, a medieval time. Today we can use the same customs and traditions, and these customs and traditions of merchant are reaffirmed. Merchant was reaffirmed in a new international mercantile law. The same way, what we find today, it's not different of what we had long time ago, with a different way in which today we can use them in dispute resolutions, in arbitration, في التحكيم. We can use the same conditions and the same points we had at medieval time, but we can use them in arbitration. I did explain this, and there is no need to go back and explain it again. Last slide here. In the last slide, we can evaluate the whole system at medieval time. What do you think? How can you evaluate it? How can we evaluate the system at medieval time? Law, commercial law, or law merchant? No? No one? Okay. Medieval law merchant, we can see, is far from being destroyed, is still alive, surviving. Long time ago, but still alive. How? Because we still use the same way, the same policy. Today what we have, as I mentioned, that we have national commercial law. In each country, we have something called commercial or business law. In most countries, at least, in most countries, we have commercial law or business law. And this was built or was developed on the same way it was built the law merchant at medieval time. And even if you look at something else today, which is cyberspace, trade, online, e-commerce, electronic commerce, buying, selling, trading online, it's something we have to study. Not now. We're going to study this at the end of this semester, e-commerce law. In this way you can see that traders today use the same mechanism, the same way. Today traders, merchants, use the same mechanism as it was at medieval time. If you would like to buy online, if you would like to sell something online, and then you have a conflict with somebody, and that person lives in the States, in the UK, in France, how can you sue? How can you solve that conflict? Someone you cannot see, someone you don't know well. You can buy or sell or trade online by distance using the internet. In this case, if you have a conflict, we have to go back to the same way as it was in the medieval time. Most likely, you can use the traditional way of mediation, arbitration. Yet seldom challenged before traditional court of law. Those can be a problem of, we have, at the same time, we have a problem of enforceability. How can we enforce it? How can we apply the law? We have a way to apply it, but still have lots of difficulties, many difficulties here. Again, last point, can you read it?
Merchants are
Reluctant.
surrender the efficiencies of merchant practice to state.
Okay, the last point is that we can see merchants are reluctant. They will not give up. They're not going to give up. They will not leave their own customs or traditions. They would keep their own way of life. They would keep insisting in using their own customs and traditions in the courts, in the legal system, and they would keep their own environment. They would keep a special way of life for themselves. Okay, well, thanks very much for your time, and we can meet it Tuesday.